In Alaska, if you're lost in the backcountry, every minute can count. Nobody knows that more than the men and women of the Alaska Air National Guard.
And tonight on Inside the Gates, KTVA 11 Scott Gross introduces us to the crew that makes sure those rescue missions get off the ground.
This Alaska Air National Guard crew knows a lot about engines. For example, how in Alaska it's best to rotate rescue aircraft to limit wear and tear on the engines.
Because it's so cold here, they run a lot more efficient than they do throughout most of the United States. So performance-wise, they actually perform a lot higher. They put out a lot more horsepower and torque.
And it's not just the cold that impacts performance, but in Alaska, the elements themselves can put an engine on ice, literally.
Ice FOD damage to the engine. You don't see it so much on the helicopters, but on the 130s, you got to do like good intake and exhaust inspections, make sure that there's no ice buildup around the inlets because it could suck in, a big piece of ice or whatever.
And if it's not ice in Alaska, it's airfields covered in gravel. Especially hazardous for these HC-130 power turbines.
When they come in for a landing, a lot of times you'll end up picking up rocks and debris off the ground. So it probably hit a rock.
Every 600 flight hours, the engines on the HC-130s and Pave Hawks receive a full inspection.
We'll take the whole engine apart and rebuild it.
Keeping these search and rescue aircraft maintained and in the air is vital, no matter where a repair is needed.
I've done engine changes in Homer, in Fairbanks. Sometimes we go out to the villages sometimes.
Because you never know who's going to need help and where.
Hikers, hunters.
Lots of lost hikers, yeah.
People that crash in the planes.
It's because of these airmen maintaining these engines that so many lives are saved. Inside the Gates, Scott Gross, KTVA 11 News.
The Alaska Air National Guard C-130s and Pave Hawk helicopters are used in all rescue missions across the state. They are also used in the lower 48. Most recently, the Alaska crews helped with rescue and relief efforts during Hurricane Florence on the East Coast.